Today, I will tell you a story that perhaps comes from our hearts, which are inherently full of love. What do you understand about forgiveness? There is a quiet strength in the world, often overlooked amidst the noise of judgment, punishment, and retribution. It is the power of mercy, the power of empathy, the power of forgiveness. And few embody this principle better than Judge Frank Caprio, a man who has spent decades on the bench, witnessing human error in all its forms, yet always searching for the humanity behind every mistake. His courtroom is not merely a place for legal judgment, it is a space where hearts are seen, lives are understood, and second chances are granted. Judge Caprio's story is more than a biography of a man in black robes presiding over disputes and fines. It is a lesson in compassion, a reminder that one act of understanding can ripple through lives and transform them in ways we cannot imagine. It is in this context that the power of forgiveness truly reveals itself, not as an abstract idea, but as a force that changes the trajectory of a person's life. On a crisp morning, the courtroom glows with soft golden light filtering through tall, sunlit windows. The polished wood gleams faintly, and the atmosphere is thick with anticipation. A young man enters, shoulders hunched, face pale with anxiety. The crowd murmurs softly, a mixture of curiosity and concern as they take in the scene before them. This man has made mistakes, minor ones perhaps in the eyes of the law, but consequential ones in the eyes of his community. Judge Caprio steps forward, his presence calm yet commanding. He does not rush to judgment. Instead, he allows silence to settle, giving space for the human story to emerge. He looks into the young man's eyes and sees fear, regret, and a yearning to do better. He listens carefully as the man recounts the circumstances leading to his error, the pressures, the mistakes made out of desperation, the consequences that now weigh heavily on his conscience. Here lies the first lesson. The courtroom is not only about laws and statutes, it is also about people. It is about understanding the context in which mistakes are made, and about remembering that human beings are capable of growth, change, and redemption. As Judge Caprio prepares to render his decision, the tension in the room is palpable. Family members clutch each other, silent prayers on their lips. The young man's heart races, uncertain whether he will face punishment or mercy. In that moment, Judge Caprio demonstrates the profound courage of forgiveness. He chooses to see beyond the error, to recognize potential and the capacity for change. Every person deserves the chance to make things right, he says softly, yet with conviction that resonates through the courtroom. These words hang in the air, both gentle and decisive. They carry with them not just leniency, but recognition. The acknowledgement that a human being is more than their mistakes, more than their failures. The young man's eyes widen, tears welling up. His family exhales, a mixture of relief and awe washing over them. In that single act, lives begin to shift. What could have been a moment of shame becomes a moment of transformation. The courtroom, often associated with judgment and punishment, has become a sanctuary for hope. This is the second lesson. Forgiveness is not weakness. It is not an abdication of justice. Instead, it is an exercise of courage, a deliberate act of moral strength that recognizes the complexity of human life and the possibility of renewal. The impact of Judge Caprio's act of forgiveness does not end at the courthouse door. Days turn into weeks, and the young man begins a journey that had once seemed impossible. He enrolls in vocational classes, seeking to gain skills that will allow him to contribute positively to society. He takes his first job with humility, learning the discipline of work and the satisfaction of accomplishment. He volunteers in the community, reaching out to help those in need, understanding that his own redemption is intertwined with service to others. Judge Caprio watches from his chambers as the young man's transformation unfolds. There is a quiet pride in seeing a life redirected, a soul restored. One day, the young man returns to the courtroom, not as a defendant, but as a messenger of gratitude. "Thank you, Your Honor," he says, his voice trembling. "You gave me a second chance at life." The third lesson emerges clearly. Forgiveness does more than alleviate guilt or prevent punishment. It catalyzes transformation. It instills responsibility, purpose, and a renewed sense of self-worth. A single act of mercy can unlock a cascade of positive change that touches not only the person forgiven, but everyone around them. Forgiveness as a bridge. Forgiveness is a bridge. It connects the past to the future, mistakes to growth, regret to hope. In the courtroom, Judge Caprio builds that bridge for those who stumble, showing that justice can coexist with compassion. But this principle extends far beyond the walls of any courthouse. It is relevant in families, workplaces, and communities. It is relevant in our personal lives, in relationships strained by misunderstanding, in moments when pride or anger tempts us to withhold grace. To forgive is to liberate oneself from the chains of resentment. It is to recognize that holding on to bitterness does not punish the other. It only prolongs one's own suffering. Judge Caprio demonstrates that forgiveness is an act of moral courage, an assertion that humanity and dignity must always be recognized, even in the shadow of wrongdoing. One of the most profound aspects of Judge Caprio's approach is his commitment to seeing the person beyond the error. He asks questions not to probe for punishment, but to understand the human story. What circumstances led to this mistake? What struggles does this individual face? What lessons can be drawn, and what opportunities exist for redemption? Through these questions, he reminds us that everyone is more than the sum of their errors. Every individual carries potential, hopes, dreams, and the capacity for change. By acknowledging these qualities, Judge Caprio fosters not only forgiveness, but dignity. In the young man's case, this recognition fuels a transformation that extends beyond his personal growth. It ripples outward, affecting family members, peers, and the broader community. People witness the possibility of change, and the act of mercy inspires a culture of empathy and understanding. Forgiveness, when exercised genuinely, has a ripple effect. The young man's journey inspires others to reconsider how they respond to mistakes, both their own and those of others. Families find reconciliation. Communities develop deeper bonds. Workplaces cultivate trust and cooperation. Even strangers are touched by the demonstration of moral courage and human compassion. Judge Caprio shows that one act of forgiveness can create countless opportunities for connection, growth, and hope. Each person granted a second chance carries the potential to extend that grace to others, creating a chain reaction that strengthens the social fabric. This is the fourth lesson. Mercy is contagious. When we choose to forgive, we set an example that others can follow. We plant seeds of compassion that, nurtured over time, can transform societies. Forgiveness is not only about transforming the lives of those who receive it, it also transforms the one who gives it. Judge Caprio exemplifies this principle.
By practicing empathy and compassion, he cultivates clarity, moral authority, and inner peace. Those who forgive find themselves freed from the burden of anger, bitterness, and resentment. They discover the serenity that comes from understanding that mistakes are part of being human, and that justice does not always require punishment. It sometimes requires healing. In this way, forgiveness becomes a powerful tool for personal growth. It nurtures patience, empathy, and the courage to connect deeply with others. It teaches us that the measure of our humanity lies not in perfection, but in our capacity to understand, empathize, and offer grace. The lessons from Judge Caprio's courtroom are universal. In our daily lives, we are presented with opportunities to forgive a friend who has wronged us.
As we close this chapter on the power of forgiveness, we are reminded that true justice is not measured by the number of fines collected or the severity of punishments handed down, but by the lives transformed through compassion and understanding. Judge Caprio shows us that forgiveness is not just about letting go of mistakes. It is about opening the door to new beginnings. But forgiveness is only one part of his greater philosophy. There are moments in his courtroom where what seems like a small piece of paper, a parking ticket, or a minor violation becomes something much larger. In Judge Caprio's hands, that ticket is not merely a penalty. It becomes a symbol of hope, a message that says, your life is worth more than your mistakes. And that brings us to our next lesson, perhaps one of the most moving of all. How a simple ticket can become a ticket of hope, not punishment. Stay with me, because what comes next is a story that will forever change the way you look at justice, mercy, and second chances. Finally, what do you understand? Please leave a comment and share your thoughts with me.